I want you to imagine a program to teach basic math just to grade school kids. And this is a research project, actually. This is cutting edge stuff in the year 1985. So here's how it works. Basically presents the student with a problem, and they're supposed to solve the problem on their own, put in the answer. And here's the clever bit. If they miss it, it analyzes their answer and tells them, tells the student where they screwed up. So for example, if I put in 32, it helpfully tells me, here we go, your answer is wrong. Possible causes of error. You multiplied the number in the multiplicand by the number directly beneath it in the multiplier, blah, blah. So it's guessing what I got wrong. So there you go. There's your problem. It's the, multiplicand. And fix that. Smooth sailing. So, I know what you're thinking. This is the worst error message of all time, right? It's too long. It's confusing. It's accusatory. Like you could do better. But that's because you and I were software people, and we have a lot of experience, too much experience with error messages. And the error message here is not actually the key thing that is wrong. So I want to give you a slightly different perspective. This talk, it starts with a program, but it's not about programming or programmers at all. It talks about education. It's about tutoring. So it's time to introduce the real people in this true story. That output, of course, it was a reenactment, right? But that's real program output from a real research project in the 1980s. This is Mark Lepper, a professor of psychology at Stanford University. His co-author on the research that I'm talking about today is Maria Wolverton, of whom I could not find a picture on the internet. But they again, are not software people. They are social psychologists. And they're interested in computer-based education, not out of general tech enthusiasm, but because it has the potential to make a real change in some people's lives. And they run into a lot of these programs. They see a lot of programs that mostly only programmers see, these research projects. And they reach the conclusion that they've identified the common problem with all of them. And it is that these software developers, they don't really have the slightest clue what they're doing, really. They don't know about the psychology of these one-on-one teaching situations between a student and a tutor, or between a student and a computer. And particularly, they don't understand how a kid's motivation can get undermined. So they think, we really need to educate these guys. We need to send them some papers on the subject. So they go to the computer, they go to the library, and they do a literature search. And guess what? Comes up empty. What to do? Well, there's nothing else to do. You have to build a research team and spend the next decade doing research on this brand new topic. And that's exactly what they did. They ran a series of very similar experiments. They would pick some topic in basic math, like fractions, and they would find students who needed remedial tutoring in that subject, students who needed help, and they would find tutors who had experience teaching it. And they would bring them together. They'd test the kids beforehand for both math skills and motivation, and again afterwards. And they would videotape the sessions. And you see how this is set up. Because they've tested the kids before and after, they have an objective measure of which sessions are good and which sessions are bad. Did the scores go up? And then they can go to the video and find out what it is, try and identify the common qualities of the successful sessions. So what did they find? Two things. There is such a thing as a highly effective tutor. The best tutors, they write, quote, were able to turn initially resistant, alienated, and seemingly helpless students into interested and excited participants. They helped remedial students move through weeks or months of curriculum material in just hours. Second, they found that the best tutors had a strikingly common approach to teaching. In fact, Lepper and Wolverton identify something like 20 common traits and techniques of good tutors. I'll only be able to cover a few of them today. One of them, of course, is they know the material. They actually know the material like stunningly well, even for math tutors. They know things about math history. They know like why things work the way they work. And they know in advance what the problem areas are and what students will hit and not understand correctly the first time. The good tutors ask questions. They actually apparently tallied like what percentage of the remarks that their best tutors made were questions versus statements or instructions. 80 to 90%, like 80% questions. I can't convey how crazy that is. I tried talking that way. You can't talk like that. You can't use 80% questions, but these tutors apparently did. Good tutors never give the answer away. If you're stuck, they'll give you a hint, and they intentionally choose the tiniest hint they can possibly think of, even if you need more help than that. They'll let you think about it some more. And if you're stuck again, they'll give you the next hint. And they're very patient. That want you to take that next step on your own. The best tutors would give 5, 6 hints in a row, right? And the researchers were a little confused about this at first because it's painful to watch, right? They wrote, if we did not have clear outcome data establishing the great success of these same tutors, it would be easy to believe that such an inefficient strategy was dysfunctional. The best tutors distinguish between errors that are just like going to lead to frustration and the student's going to get to the end, have a wrong answer, and have to do the whole problem over again, versus another kind of error where it actually reveals something that you didn't understand right the first time. Like it actually reveals a bug in your misunderstanding. And they would allow those to happen. So like the first kind of error, the frustrating kind, they would stop it right away or stop it before it happened by giving a hint at just the right time. But then the other kind, the productive kind, they would let it happen or even deliberately give the student a problem because they know, and I think that kid doesn't get this part about common denominators or whatever. They need to give them a problem that will illustrate that they've got it wrong. And then the tutor, of course, is ready to provide the right hints, the right help and support to get the student out of that error, to teach them the right way. I have a bug on this next slide, so I apologize. You're not supposed to see that. Anyway, so let's go back through what we've got so far. We've got an expert tutor who really knows the material, who asks a lot of questions, who doesn't give away the answers, but instead makes the student come up with them themselves, and they lead them into and out of the classic errors. What is this? Does this sound familiar to anybody? Does it have a name? Do you know what this is? Thank you. It's the Socratic Method, popularized by Plato in the year, 380 BC. This teaching technology is over 2,000 years old, and it is the state of the art. Computers can't do this yet. That's when that was supposed to appear. I think we're getting close to being able to do a little bit of this in a very shallow sort of way. But to do this right, you need to understand what the student understands, how much they understand, what they don't understand. You have to have a model of the way their mind is working right now, and to be able to systematically debug that. But even this is not the most important thing to learn about tutoring. There's something even more important that Lepper and Wolverton and their team discovered. What else do good tutors do? Well, they found out that good tutors spend a couple minutes at the beginning of every session just chatting with the student, striking up a rapport. The good tutors they exhibited warmth and concern for the student and confidence that the student could succeed. They challenged their students. They verbally challenged them, can you do this? You think you can do it? And they always gave them hard problems. They gave them the hardest problems that they thought that student could solve correctly. They're very careful with their feedback. They didn't want to discourage their students. Some of the tutors avoided ever saying that a student had done something wrong, which seems excessive, but instead they would give a hint or ask a question. The best tutors were also careful with positive feedback. They didn't want to overdo it. So what does this point to? I find this interesting because these really aren't teaching techniques at all. They point to something deeper about education, which is that it's all about the student's motivation. See, to learn, for you to learn, your mind has to be actually in a pretty specific mental state, right? And the baseline, like the foundation for everything else in tutoring, is to help the student get into that state. So good tutors track not only the student's understanding, they also track the student's motivation. They have a mental model of that student's motivation at the moment. They know when kids are bored, discouraged, frustrated, tired, distracted, and they act on that knowledge, because if your mind's not engaged, you're not learning. In fact, even the Socratic techniques that we were talking about earlier, they too are fundamentally about motivation. Why do teachers allow productive errors to happen? Because it's more motivating when you see the need to debug your understanding, when you realize that you have made a mistake yourself, right? When it comes from inside, the desire to fix your understanding is powerful. Why do they give hints? Probably because we learn by struggling, right? But partly because giving a kid the answer ends the exercise in failure, right? Whereas sticking with them and working through it ends in them earning a win. Why do they ask questions? Because even with uncooperative kids, in a one-on-one situation, a question does something almost magical. It compels a response. It turns the brain on. A question makes us care. So that's what I know about tutoring. It all comes out of this one book, one chapter, in fact, of this one book. I've got it here, so you can borrow it if you want to. It's actually packed. It has way more details than I could possibly have gone into today. There's one more thing that I want to show you today. This is a video that I took on a popular website. Oh, it's going already. I figured I'd just multiply totally the wrong way and give it a wrong answer and see what the website would do. So there. Oh, did you see it? Let's do it again. Nope. Okay, so this is a real website used by, I think, millions of kids. And that really is all the feedback you get when you put in a wrong answer. They're doing some other things right here. I don't want to pick on this website too much, because they don't claim to be a substitute for a tutor. But now that you know, what would an expert tutor do? At what point would you intervene? What would you say? And how do you get the kid back on track once they've made this mistake? Is the computer doing it right? Does it even have the information that it would need to do it right? My point here is just that interest in educational technology comes in cycles, and the current cycle, while it's very exciting, is not the last.